This is a SnapEd New York video presentation.
Hello everyone, my name is Wendy Beckman and I'm a registered dietitian with the New York State Office for the Aging and SnapEd New York. Thanks for joining me today on What's Cooking with NYSOFA. Today I'm going to be making a baked kale frittata. We'll be putting the link to the recipe below, and you can find the recipe on the SnapEd New York website at www.snapedny.org. This baked kale frittata is perfect for breakfast or brunch. This recipe can be customized to your taste by adding the ingredients that you like. Before we start cooking, let's look at the My Plate graphic. This recipe covers the protein section of My Plate. Throughout the week, you want to vary your protein routine. When planning your meals, include both animal-based forms of protein like eggs, cheese, fish, poultry, pork, and beef, and you also want to include non-animal-based forms of protein like beans, seeds, nuts, and legumes. One of the main ingredients in this recipe is the eggs. Eggs contain all of the amino acids that our bodies need because eggs are an animal-based protein. All animal-based proteins are complete proteins, meaning that they contain all of the amino acids that our bodies need. Our bodies use amino acids to build all sorts of proteins like skin and muscle cells, blood cells, and immune-fighting cells. It's important to get enough protein in your diet so that your body has enough amino acids to build back tissues and cells that are damaged. Plant-based forms of protein like beans, seeds, nuts, and legumes are incomplete proteins. That means that they contain only some of the amino acids that our bodies need. Now, did you know that combining two forms of a plant protein in your diet can make a complete protein? That's right. Usually combining a grain and a nut or a bean or a legume will form a complete protein. So peanut butter, which is made out of legumes, and bread, which is made out of wheat, a grain, that makes a complete protein. So that peanut butter sandwich that you ate for lunch, it gives you all of the amino acids that your body needs. One of my favorite plant-based complete protein combinations is beans and rice or beans and corn. That combination of foods is both delicious and it contains all of the essential amino acids. There are also some plants that are complete proteins. Quinoa, chia seeds, and soy are all examples of plant-based proteins that contain all 9 essential amino acids. You can see that there are lots of ways to add high-quality protein to your diet. This recipe also contains kale and onions, which are both vegetables. And I think you could really add any vegetables you want. This recipe would be great with some cauliflower or broccoli, or you could add something like peppers and onions, whatever you like. Use your imagination or use some leftover vegetables in this dish to give them a new life. It's just one way to customize this recipe to make it the way that you like it. Remember that over time, everything you eat and drink matters. You can make every bite count by including different grains, fruits, vegetables, and protein sources when you're preparing your meals. Now, make sure you watch this program all the way to the end because I'm going to be sharing which recipes I'm going to be making next month. So let's get into making this baked kale frittata. Remember to wash your hands with soap for at least 20 seconds or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer before you start cooking. Now let's look at the ingredients for this recipe. This recipe calls for a vegetable cooking spray, or you can use a teaspoon of vegetable oil to coat your pan, and that's what I've done. Now here we have some kale leaves, and you want enough to end up with about 3 cups of chopped kale. Here's 1 large onion chopped, that's about a cup. I have an additional teaspoon of vegetable oil right here that I'm going to use to saute the onions and the kale. I also have a 1/4 cup of water. Now the recipe calls for 5 eggs, and I have them here. They're already whisked together. I use 6 because that just made more sense to me. I have a 1/2 cup of low-fat milk. You can use 1% or skim milk. This is 1%. And this is about a 1/2 cup of shredded cheddar cheese. And you can use any kind of cheese that you want, or you can just not use the cheese at all, depending on what you like. When you're looking for cheese in the grocery store, look for the low-fat varieties. Now for seasoning, I have a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and about a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Now you can also add whatever seasonings you like. You could add some chili powder or garlic powder. It's just another way to customize the recipe. The first step is to preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, my oven's been heating up for a little while, so it's all ready to go. Next, we're going to coat a 9-inch round baking pan with vegetable cooking spray or a teaspoon of vegetable oil, and I've already done that, and that's behind me. Next, you want to wash your kale and chop it up. Now, I've already washed this kale, so I just need to chop it up. I'm going to do that in just a minute. Now, when you wash your kale, make sure that you wash it thoroughly, and it helps if you have a strainer or a colander to run the water over the kale. Now, kale is a hardy leafy green. It belongs to the mustard family, which also includes bok choy, cabbage, cauliflower, watercress, radishes, broccoli, arugula, and Brussels sprouts. These vegetables are all called cruciferous vegetables. These types of vegetables have many health benefits as they contain many antioxidants, and consuming them can decrease your chance of developing some cancers. Kale is a good source of beta-carotene, vitamin C, vitamin K, vitamin A, potassium, fiber, folate, and calcium. Now I'm going to get some of this kale here and chop it up. Now you want to make sure that when you're chopping it, you make it about the same size. So we're going to make sure that we keep our fingers out of the way, and we're just going to chop the kale up like that. Now, some of this kale has already had some of the stems removed, but you can see with this piece, this has a big stem in it, and I'm going to just cut that off of there. It doesn't matter too much with the kale if you're going to cook it, whether you leave the stems on or not, because it's all going to get soft when you cook it. But I prefer to remove as many as the stems as possible. That's just my preference. But a lot of times if I use kale, I do cook it. I don't like it that much when it is raw. I just find it to be a little bit too fibrous for me. But, you know, you can use the kale in a lot of cooked dishes, and I like it that way. So you can use it in things like soup or casseroles or something like this, frittata, where it's already baked. And that just helps to sort of soften up some of that kale. So there's another one of the stems I'm going to remove. And we're just going to try and put this all so that it's about the same size. And the rest of that looks pretty good. So the first thing I have to do is, now that the kale is chopped, is I have to cook the onions. So let's put the oil in the pan first. We're going to do that. And then I am going to add the onions to the pan. So there you can hear those onions sizzling there. And that sounds pretty good. Now, when you're cooking the onions, you're going to want to make sure that you cook them long enough so that they start to look a little translucent or a little more see-through. Right now, they look pretty white. And so that's how you can tell that the onions are starting to cook, is they start to lose some of that color. Now, onions are part of the allium family, which also is a relative of things like garlic and scallions and things like that. And onions are great for you. Sometimes people talk a little bit about, well, it doesn't have any color and so it doesn't count. And that's not true. Onions have lots of antioxidants in them. And we often talk about colorful vegetables. You know, we want to have as many different colors in our meals as possible when you're talking about vegetables. But the white that's in the onion is actually a pigment in the onion, and a lot of pigments in plants are the things that are good for you. So that's why we want to include all of those vegetables, not just the green and red and orange ones, but the white ones, the lighter colored ones are okay too. They're all good for you. Eat them, they're good for you. So now we're going to add some of this kale to the pan. You can add some of that in here. Let's do that. And just like many other leafy green vegetables, it looks like a lot right now, but if you put it in the pan, it will actually cook down quite a bit. So you're going to lose some of the volume here when you start cooking this kale. So we're going to put that in there. The onions have actually started to get a little bit translucent here. And I am then going to add this water to the pan right here. And you can hear that. That will help steam the kale a little bit. I'm going to put a top on here on this pan right here. And then we're going to let that steam in the water for about 5 minutes. And once the kale is wilted and soft, you can remove it from the pan and from the heat and let it cool slightly. So I'm just going to stir this again a little bit, just so we can see how this is sort of cooking down a little bit, and let it wilt a little bit more. Now, some of these leafy green vegetables, some people are concerned about those. You don't want to, they've been told not to eat too many leafy green vegetables because they do contain vitamin K, and that can be an issue with people who take some kinds of blood thinners. But generally, you don't have to avoid those things altogether. You just have to make sure that you eat about the same amount of leafy green vegetables every week. So if you have about a cup or a half a cup of leafy green vegetables every week, you can continue to do that. Some of the newer blood thinners don't have that issue anymore, but some people might still be on those types of drugs. So here you can see that the kale is starting to cook down a little bit. So next, what we need to do is take our large bowl, and we're going to add the eggs, the milk, the cheese, the salt, and the pepper, and whatever other seasonings that you have that you want to use. So let's put the eggs in here first, in this large bowl. And then we're going to add the milk. There we go. Then we're going to add the salt and the pepper, and any other seasoning that you want. And then I'm going to put the cheese in there. Like I said, I use cheddar cheese. You can use Munster or Brie or absolutely anything that you want. So we're just going to mix that together. That's pretty easy to do, but we need this very large bowl because we're going to add all of this stuff from this pan into the egg mixture. Now, generally, once it's cooked down a little bit, you're going to take it off the heat and you're going to let it cool for a little bit. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to dump this in here. So let's put all of these things in with the egg, the onions, and the kale. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay. Now with this mixture, now we can mix all of that together as well. You want to make sure that it's pretty well incorporated. Make sure that the eggs are nice and beaten so that you don't have any clumps in there. There, that looks pretty good too. All right, wonderful. So now I just have to put this in the pan, in my prepared pan, and then I can put it in the oven at 375 Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes. So let me get my pan behind me. And like I said, this is a round pan. I've coated it with some canola oil first before I put the egg mixture in here. So I'm going to pour that in. That looks good, and you can see that nice kale and those onions in there. It smells really delicious. So that looks wonderful. So now I'm going to just take this and I'm going to put it right in the oven. So I'll be right back. So you can use a round baking dish like I used, or you can use an oven-safe frying pan or a cast iron skillet. Now, just make sure if you're using a skillet or a frying pan, make sure that it's oven safe. Do not put a skillet in the oven if it has plastic handles because they will melt. So once the frittata has baked for about 20 minutes, you can remove it from the oven and let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes before you cut into it. You want to make sure you do that so it sets very nicely. Now let me show you a frittata that I made earlier so that you can have an idea of what it looks like once it's done. And there it is. It looks nice and colorful. The kale and the onions are in there and it just smells delicious. And I hope you like to try this recipe. And I hope this recipe gave you some more ideas on how to include more protein and vegetables into your diet. Don't forget to join me in February when I'll be making a bean and veggie soup. It's a great recipe for the colder months. I'll be back with another edition of What's Cooking with NYSOFA on Friday, February 28th at 12:30 p.m. right here on the New York State Office for the Aging Facebook page and the New York State Office for the Aging YouTube channel, where you can find out more ways to save time, save money, and eat healthy. Now, if you watch on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out whenever we post new recipes. This presentation was funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us today. We know the healthy choice isn't always the easiest choice, but small changes can make a big difference. Start today by getting involved with SNAP Ed New York. This program is free for those who qualify or receive SNAP benefits. We want to help you save time, save money, and eat healthy. Learn how SNAP Ed can make a difference in your life. For more information and to find your local program, visit snapedny.org. This material was funded by USDA's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. SNAP. This institution is an equal opportunity provider.
Hi, I'm registered dietitian Wendy Beckman, host of What's Cooking with NYSOFA. Over the past 2 years, I've had the opportunity to share healthy, nutritious recipes with you on the show. I work for the New York State Office for the Aging, and thanks to a partnership with SNAP Ed New York, our nutrition team reaches hundreds of thousands of older New Yorkers each year. So why a cooking program? 60% of health costs and related issues have nothing to do with health, but instead have to do with individual behaviors like our food choices and physical activity. The recipes we feature are nutritionally appropriate for older adults, meeting critical nutrition requirements for healthy aging. What I bet you don't know is that this show is only part of a larger effort. To help me explain what our nutrition team at the New York State Office for the Aging does and what a registered dietitian is, here is registered dietitian Lisbeth Irish.
A registered dietitian is a professional who has training and education in food and nutrition. To become an RD, you must complete certain requirements, including a minimum of a bachelor's degree from an institution that's accredited by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. You must also pass a national examination and meet continuing education requirements. What does that mean? As RDs, we are qualified to offer accurate advice about nutrition, and we can help answer your questions about how diet can affect your health. At NYSOFA, the registered dietitians handle many tasks. This includes hosting 2 online programs aimed at helping older New Yorkers make better nutrition choices. These programs are What's Cooking with NYSOFA, which is our monthly cooking demonstration, and a Facebook Live program that I host called Ask the Experts, Nutrition Edition. In the months ahead, be on your lookout for it. We'll be sharing your questions and our experts' answers about nutrition and health. New episodes of Ask the Experts Nutrition Edition debut the second Friday of each month on Facebook and YouTube.
As Lisbeth explained, registered dietitians at NYSOFA handle many tasks, including food safety at congregate meal sites, educational materials, and outreach. In the meantime, please don't miss an episode of either show produced by our team, What's Cooking with NYSOFA and Ask the Experts Nutrition Edition. Every episode is uploaded to YouTube, and you'll find the archive shows there.
Do you have a question about foods? Or do you have a particular health issue that you'd like to improve by changing your diet? Tune in to Ask the Experts Nutrition Edition every second Friday at 1 p.m. We'd love to hear from you.
Remember, registered dietitians are the experts in nutrition. Visit for more sound advice about eating healthy on a budget.